Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Kemmler. You have loved our next guest in Boardwalk Empire, Manchester by the Sea, The Shape of Things, so much more. She's been in so many wonderful things. And now you can see Gretchen Mol in space in the sci-fi series Nightflyers. She plays a doctor on board a ship of explorers hunting for a mysterious alien ship. And things kind of go awry. Let's take a look.
There was a malfunction during the launch. They seem to think that it wasn't an accident, that someone on board might be behind it. Did you see any flashes? Any images?
Flashes? Images? I don't know. You let me watch you in the shower if I did.
This isn't a game, Sale. A man was very badly hurt.
Yeah. That's not why you're here, is it? You wanna know if it was me?
Everybody, please welcome Gretchen Mol. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
From the mind of George R.R. Martin. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a Game of Thrones fan? Were you excited to be a part of that world?
Yeah, I was. I mean,
This is not the Game of Thrones world in any way.
it's not at all.
but,
No,
yeah.
I was just. That was definitely a pull. The original script, the first pilot script, and then I went to the little novella that he had written. It was about 100 pages long. I was like, how can they expand this? But Jeff Bueller, our creator, really did an amazing job kind of adding some characters and taking, bending it a little bit, but it's pretty exciting and spooky.
Tell us about your character. She's a doctor on board, and she has a attachment, not an attachment, but she is the one essentially assigned to take care of this, I think, telepathic boy,
he's
right?
a telepath. On Earth, she's a psychiatrist, and she sort of has taken it upon herself to. Well, there's telepaths. This is 75 years in the future, and they've been sort of ostracized. And so she's a psychiatrist trying to sort of bring them into the world and integrate them into society because they're sort of been shunned and they don't live near people and they're considered to be dangerous. And this one telepath, one of the scientists on board thinks if we bring these L1s or one L1, he might be able to communicate with the Vulcan, which is this other species that might be able to save the Earth.
And now this telepath, though, may in fact be. It's not necessarily that he's evil or is malicious. It's that, as you said, he's been ostracized for so long that he is somewhat vindictive and vengeful.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that thing, like if you think you've been treated like you're scary, and obviously, I think a lot of it is that they can't control their powers. So it's scary, and they probably have done some bad things, not necessarily, on purpose. And so they're treated as this other species to be kind of kept away from people. Now one is being brought on this ship where you can't escape. So there's a lot of the crew members are kind of already suspicious of him, and when things start to go wrong, it immediately, he's the suspect. And I'm by proxy kind of, defending him and his reasons for being there.
Now, what I love about the show, about the episode that I've seen, is that we basically know that everything has gone wrong from the top of the show. The show is like, look, everything is going to go wrong here. Let's find out how it went wrong.
Right.
And we start with this world when we get back to the ship taking off. There's all these different ways that it could go wrong. So by the end of the first episode, you're like, is it going to be the aliens? Is it going to be the telepath? What is going to be the thing that made it so horrible?
Right.
In that first scene of the first episode.
Yeah,
What a great pilot to read, I would imagine.
That was the fun. I mean, for me, that first 5 minutes, which is now a trailer and a teaser.
It's a great 5 minutes.
And it's an amazing 5 minutes. And it was the first, 8 or 9 pages of this pilot episode that I read. And I was right then and there kind of sold on it because it was so different from anything that I had ever done in terms of the genre, and just this woman is in this harrowing situation, and then the way that ends that 5 minutes, I was completely grabbed. I was like, how do we get, who is this woman and how did she get here?
And we can say how the 5 minutes end, right? Because it's online.
Well, yeah. I guess she basically...
She takes a buzzsaw to her neck and blows blood all over the window.
Yeah. I was like, awesome.
It's
I want to
pretty
do
amazing.
that. I want to fly.
Yeah.
And I want to kill myself.
You said that, you don't really... Do you feel like you don't get offered genre like this that often?
I think it's really hard to do this genre well. And so I think it's not that I've read that many, or I mean, I think the last time I did a science fiction film was like 1998, a film called The 13th Floor. And it's not something that I think it's really hard to do. So most of the time, if you read a script like this, it doesn't all come together. And somehow I had some faith. I think it was the George R.R. Martin element. I think it was speaking to Jeff Bueller. The director of the pilot, who is Mike Cahill, has done some interesting films like I Origins. And so
Oh yeah, he did I Origins.
yeah, and they were using amazing lenses, like the Aliens lenses for the way they shot it. And so I kind of threw caution to the wind and thought.
And you also
why
had
not?
those first 8 pages where I feel like if you're an actor and you get those 8 pages, you can be like, well, I'll do it. I'll do it at least for that. That's going to be fun.
Totally. I mean, these are the kinds of things, I think also I probably lightened up over the years, but it's you want to go to work and you want to do something different and have fun and take a chance,
What do you mean lightened up over the years? Do you just mean lightened up in terms of what you've been interested in or what you're open to?
I think so. I think that
Did you see yourself a certain way as an actress before and now you kind of don't?
I don't know if I really saw myself a certain way. I think I probably wanted to be pickier about projects, and I think as time moves on and it becomes a function of your life, it's your job, and you have children and a family, and it's like some freedom happens in that because you just think, oh, you want me to come to Ireland and work for 5 months and just like let go of my life for a minute and enter into this crazy world? Sure, I'll do it, because you realize that none of these things, if they don't work or if they do so little of it, you can show up and do the job that you do and do the best that you can do. And you can try to kind of surround yourself with good people, and then you hope for the best. And if it doesn't quite work out the way you wished, it's not a huge loss, I guess.
Yeah,
you can keep working,
That's something that I would imagine an actor eventually gets used to after a little while of doing it. That the disappointment of like, you worked with the greatest director here, you thought this was going to be the great movie, and maybe it wasn't, but this other movie that you didn't really have that high hopes for, that you kind of took a job, and it turned out to be really great. You don't have that much control over what you pick and choose.
Yeah, and I think as a young person in general, you're protective of this thing that you're starting to put out there, and you think everything matters, and it certainly does, but if you're in it for the long haul, then you have to realize there will be ebbs and flows, and you can just show up and do your best work.
You can just start
and try to be better, and know everything.
And you can start looking at it as like, oh, that looks like fun. I'll do that.
Yeah, exactly, and it is fun.
So you were in Ireland
more fun
for
approach.
5 months?
5 months, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was that like? I mean, had you ever taken that much time away from sort of parenting or anything like that to take a job?
I didn't even do that. That was what was amazing about it, was I've never done this where
the whole family?
I brought the whole family
Oh, that's amazing.
over, and we lived in this like castle and on a lake, and it was, I'm totally addicted to Ireland at this point.
Do your children know how lucky they are, or were they like, oh, I want to go back home?
My son wants to go back to Ireland.
Oh, that's
He's like, when are we going back? I want to go to, I think.
You're like, Mommy needs a season 2.
I know.
Needs a season 2 pickup.
We'll see. Yeah, but even then, it didn't end well for me, so I don't know how I would exactly come back. But
what's easier for you? I mean, easy is maybe the wrong word, but I guess stick with it though. What is easier for you as an actress, doing a part like this in Nightflyers, where a certain amount of suspension of disbelief is required to create the world around you, to react to things, or something like Manchester by the Sea, which is highly dramatic, and you have a role in that movie. I rewatched that movie recently, and you have what I think is maybe the hardest part in that movie, which is that you are on screen for a brief amount of time, and you have so much that you have to say about your character, about the husband, that your character's husband, and your character also, all the depth that you may think about that character is yours as the actress. It's not necessarily on screen. So that seems like what is harder for you as an actress?
Manchester by the Sea, a film like that, you feel, again, you have Kenny Lonergan as a writer, and surrounded by really accomplished, wonderful actors. And so you feel I didn't have any, I was so excited to be a part of that. And I don't think about it in terms of, screen time or how am I going to pack all this in. It just, in a situation like that, you just show up with your ideas about the character, and it's very organic, and he loves actors, and so I felt completely safe. I would say maybe something like Nightflyers, although not physically as difficult. It's emotionally hard because you don't know where it's going. There's so many other elements that you're not, there on Manchester by the Sea, you're all sitting at a table. The scene either feels like it's working or not. In this kind of genre, you're relying on so many other elements. Like, if the spaceship looks like crap, then no one's gonna buy it. You know what I mean? So you need all of everybody's artistry to come together, and I think here it does, at least in what I've seen so far, which is exciting. But it's more of a risk, I think, and.
On a show as well, something like Nightflyers or any of the other shows that you do, the difference between them and acting in a movie is that you're essentially going to have one scene in the movie, no matter if you're the main character or supporting character, where all of your feelings are shown and you're going to blow up and everything's going to come to the forefront. On a TV show, you're probably going to have 2 scenes like that per episode.
Right.
Where you're
No,
gonna have
that's
to do
the
that.
fun. That's the joy of doing this kind of format. Is everything you start to feel so confident. You're showing up every day, and you're just there for 5 months, and it's like a really juicy role in a great movie or something. You really do. And in general, there is a kind of arc to it, and that come episode 9, 10, the shit is gonna hit the fan. And those are always like, I always find those like episode 9 and 10 are really exciting to play because it's all of the things that you've been sort of building toward as a character.
Did you learn a lot doing Boardwalk?
I did.
Yeah.
I think so.
Because that was kind of your first series, right?
Yeah. Well, I had done other small things. I remember I did a David E. Kelly thing called Girls Club. I did Life on Mars here for I don't remember how many episodes, but yeah. So I'd done
53 episodes or something.
Yeah.
like that
No,
with
I'd done.
Boardwalk, right?
Yeah, I'd done series, but Boardwalk was like having a job for 5 years, which is in itself unique for an actor. And I think, well, I don't know what I learned exactly, except that I felt that something of the character stays with me in a deeper way, and is sort of empowering.
They also threw a lot at you on that
They
show
did.
as well. I loved that show, and I remember some episodes being like, God, they're really putting her through the ringer here.
Why do they have a vendetta out against me or something? I know, it was like, oh, she'll do it. She'll do the bathtub. She'll kill the guy.
Did you get scripts and we're like, come on, man?
No, I mean, it was juicy. It was juicy, good material. So I always felt really grateful for that, And there would be times where I would get the script, and especially towards the last couple seasons when they would really build a huge arc. And you'd get that 9th episode script, or the whatever it was, penultimate. I would sit in the car and be weeping as I read the scripts because they were so, I was like, getting to play out the stew. I think what ends up happening with these television characters is that it's like you are brewing in this sauce, for so long of this character. And then every once in a while, it's like they let the bubbles go, it percolates. I don't know. I mean, it's like it releases, and it's really fun because you've been with it for so long, and so it's deeper in you.
You read them in your car?
Well, I remember in that particular job, we shot at Steiner Studios, which is right in, I would drive over the Williamsburg Bridge and go to my fittings, and oftentimes I would get the scripts around that time where I would be at a costume fitting, and I'd kind of like sit in the car and just kind of read it, and
I wasn't sure if you were
read it and weep.
an alternate side parking addict like I am, where I get my best reading and writing done when I have to wait
That's
an hour
my
and a half.
husband's
Yeah.
job.
Oh, really? It's my job too in the relationship. But I actually have grown to love it. I sit in the car for an hour and a half.
I
and
see him
read.
in there, and I'm like, "Are you okay, honey? I'm going off to like exercise or whatever."
I'm
And he's
great,
in there
I'm
with his
alone.
glasses, like catch. It's a good time to get the paper, it's good.
With this character in Nightflyers, I think it's a different kind of character for you as well, in terms that you are, in a lot of ways, at least for the episode that I've seen and what it feels like will play out for a little while in the beginning, I'm sure that will change, you are the kind of calm one on the ship. You don't seem to have as much simmering underneath the surface as much as everybody else, whereas I think of something like Boardwalk that we referenced, where what was under the surface was fairly clear early on in that show.
No, this woman, Agatha, is a psychiatrist. She's level-headed. She's used to taking care of other people who are somewhat broken or needy or outcasted. So I thought from the get-go that she should start in a place that was even-keeled, even though she's a psychiatrist, but she's not really space ready. She's not a person, of everybody on the ship, she's the least comfortable in that environment. So it's all kind of new to her. And I think that's a way for the audience to come into the ship.
She's also seemingly out of depth with the one responsibility that she has as well, which is sort of maintaining this telepath and his behavior.
It's all new because you don't know how it's going to go down exactly or how he's going to react in this environment. So I think she's there to sort of suppress him, and then she's getting all these other influences telling her how to do it, and I think they want to get him off the ship. And I think in some ways I would ask, why don't we just leave then? But I think it's an opportunity she sees the opportunity there for telepaths.
Let's get some questions from the audience. Who has a question right here? Hi.
Here. Thanks for coming. My question is, what was your preparation for this role in the show?
It was hard, really, to prepare much, although it was more about a thought process, really, of trying to shape this woman on the page because there was so little there in a way. I thought about a psychiatrist who cares for telepaths, who cares for outcasted people, and I thought of her almost a little bit as like a revolutionary, of her time, because she sees the potential, she sees that they're not being seen or taken seriously, and she's trying to bring these two worlds together. So I looked back on women who were strong in that. That was just the idea I started with, but what's interesting about this format is that it completely can then morph as you're going along, and I didn't even know that I had certain relationships and certain secrets that do come out as the series progresses, which shaped it in a different way, but all of that stuff was still useful. And of course, going back and looking at the great sci-fi movies like Aliens and, 2001, just seeing the world and seeing, I think it was important not to react to so much. This is a genre where so much is happening, and I really had to sort of modulate. Everything would freak this person. Everything would freak me out if I were on this ship, But after a while, it becomes your normal, the new normal. So I was thinking about like war zones and places where people adapt. And I think that's what happens on the Nightflyer. It's scary, but you're kind of there's a little bit of shock and a little bit of just trying to survive.
The genre is so well honed and developed in this that I think, and it might just be because of those first 8 pages, you feel like you are in the world of Alien or The Thing, and that no matter what digression or direction the show takes, you still feel kind of comfortable in this world, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Next question, right here.
Hi. So you've mentioned shooting Nightflyers in Ireland and how beautiful that was. And I wanted to know, do you have like an ideal location that you haven't shot in yet that you want to? And what sort of project would you work on?
Oh my goodness. Oh, loaded. Gosh. I think right now, anywhere outside of the United States. It's terrible. No, but that was what was lovely about Ireland, was it was removed from a lot of the kind of noise that we're in right now. And so,
Best, isn't it?
yeah.
And then when you come back and you're like, oh, God damn it.
Yeah, and you get right back into it, and you get right back into the drama of what we're experiencing these days. Ireland was pretty idyllic. I mean, I would, Italy, you know, but I would be happy to shoot like in the Caribbean for some time. Japan, I mean, everywhere. That's the fun part of this job, is you don't know where you'll be next. Now that I've, you know, when I had, my kids were small, and I still have to really consider it, but I see now that I always loved the travel aspect of it, and I see now that I can sort of get back to that a little bit, and that it's great for them too. It's like, it's a cool thing that my job can bring to the family, so.
Your husband's a director, right?
Yes.
Have you worked with him?
I have not.
You have
yet.
not. Is that a thing that?
No, we want to. It's
really?
about fundraising. Yeah, we have a really lovely project that he wrote, and yeah, and so it's just about raising.
I've always been fascinated by the direct, like, that relationship and how it can work. You know.
He's really helpful because he can read something that I'm doing and see the, I would say, pitfalls or subvert it in a way that makes it much more interesting. So I love to sort of talk over material with him. Yeah, no, and I think there was a time when I thought maybe we shouldn't work together. I'm not sure why I thought that, but I definitely feel like now it would just be another stage of a way of knowing each other in another way. So I hope we get to do that. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here. I was just wondering what your favorite project was that you've worked on so far in your career.
Oh boy, Nightflyers. But I will say I loved Boardwalk, and I loved the Notorious Betty Page. That's going back a little ways. But that was probably the one time I was really it was all on my shoulders, and I really loved that experience. Yeah, and I think every actor wants more of that, you know, developing a character who was known, filling in the blanks, the sort of research involved, working with Mary Harron, being trusted by Mary Harron.
That was my question. I was trying to remember if it was Mary Harron.
Yeah.
She's so cool.
She's so cool.
Yeah, she's such a cool New Yorker.
She is, and she's such a talented director and such a unflappable vision. You know, she's really amazing, and I'm always shocked she's not just cranking them out. But I don't think that's her way. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think she could. But
for those that don't know, Mary Harron I shot Andy Warhol, the Notorious Betty Page. She did American Psycho, and she's done a number of other projects since then. But I mean, you know, she's also, I believe, started or was a part of Punk magazine in the late '70s with not Lester Bangs, but Legs McNeil and the group who wrote. I mean, she
was a journalist.
Yeah.
And, very cool in the '80s in the East Village, CBGBs and all that. Yeah, she's had a pretty incredible, but like then went to Oxford, and you know, she's cool.
So Nightflyers is on Syfy. It's fantastic. When can people tune into Syfy to see it?
December 2nd.
December 2nd.
On all platforms.
Amazing. Everybody give a big round of applause for Gretchen Mol. Let's hear it.